Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to video number 15 in the How to Make a 2D Platformer course. In today's video we are going to make our enemy search for our player whenever he dies so that it will continue chasing him when he spawns back in. We are also going to make the first part at least of the central enemy component, which is going to store health and other stats and functionality for destroying this enemy and maybe making it spawn or something. We'll see about that. I've planned some of this tutorial out completely in my head, but I've also left some of it for us to figure out together, because I think that it's good for you to see how to kind of figure some of these things out as we go instead of just knowing it already. So without further ado, I'll just do one quick plug here because I've just released UPA Toolkit version 2, and this new version is not backwards compatible because it features a lot of changes. It's much better now. I've used a new method for serialization of your images. It introduces a layer system. It's just generally much better structured. So really check it out. It's totally awesome if you want to make pixel art in Unity for free. Cool. So as always, if you have any questions, go to the forums and let's just dig right into it. So as you can see, I have done nothing since we left our scene last time. Here you can see we have our enemy AI script and our alien spaceship right here. And what I want to do with this is just drag it under the prefabs folder so we can spawn multiple enemies later, like that. And you can see when I hit play, it will chase after us. If you enable gizmos up here and select the spaceship, we should also be able to see, if we open up the seeker script here, we should be able to see the path that it draws to our player. So that's just a bit useful when debugging. Cool. But the issue as is that when we jump down and we die,
3, 2, 1,
and we hear this respawning sound, I'm just gonna disable my monitors here. You can see that the enemy doesn't chase us. It just has this point that goes down here, but it's stationary. So the way to fix this is digging into the enemy AI script. So double click that to open it up in Mono Develop. Here, I'm just going to zoom in a bit on this, maximize it, so it's easier for you to read. And you can see that we have a few checks here, checking if our target is equal to null. And currently we just panic. We do the same in the fixed update function and in the update path enumerator method. So what we do here is, instead of just returning each time, we want to now start looking for the player. So let's first off make a private boolean that is going to tell us whether we are looking for the player or not. So searching for player. It's good to keep these long descriptive names. You're going to thank yourself later if your script gets really long. And we're just going to default that to false. Then inside of our start function here, we can write out kind of what we want to happen if our target equals null. We don't want to panic. Instead, what we want to do is we want to check if we are searching for the player, because if we are already doing that, then we don't want to do anything in here. So we're going to say if we are not searching for the player, and then we can do some functionality inside of this, like this. And what we then want to do is we first off want to set searching for player to true, and then we want to actually search. And in doing this, what I want to do is basically call a method, more specifically an IEnumerator method, that we can then do all our searching logic in, and then it's gonna call itself with some delay if we haven't found what we were looking for. So it's going to search maybe each second or 2 times a second or something like that. So we don't do our searching every frame, because looking through a bunch of game objects, especially if you have a large scene, can be pretty taxing. So there's no reason to do such a large search every frame. So in order to do this, what I want to do is I want to say start coroutine. And in here, we can call the method that is going to do our searching. And we're just going to call this search for player. And remember the open and close parentheses there. So I think this should be good. We're going to say that we are starting to search for our player, and we are going to call the search for player method. Then down here, maybe above the update path enumerator, you can put it wherever you want. We're going to type enumerator search for player, and this should stop being read in a second. And then open and close our parentheses, and then put in some brackets. And now you can see that it stops being read up there, because now it can find the method inside of the script. Then what we do inside of this method is first off, we want to do a GameObject.find. So we do GameObject.find GameObject with tag, and make sure this is singular. And then in here we can put whatever tag you want. I'm just going to put in player. If you want the different enemies to search for different things, you can of course make this a variable, just a simple string, and then you can input it in the hierarchy or in the inspector. I mean, I'm just going to hard code it here, but you might be better off doing something else. Cool. But we want to store this in a temporary variable called GameObject, of type GameObject, I mean. And we're going to call this sResult for search result. The reason why we don't just directly equal target to this variable or to this value here is that this is going to return a GameObject. So in order for this to be valid, we would have to do .transform. And we can't access the transform parameter if this doesn't find anything. So first we store it in a variable, then we check if that variable is equal to null or not, and then we can assign it to the target. So now we say if search result is equal to null, then we can stop searching. So then we can continue searching, and we do this by calling again the search for player method, but with a short delay. So let's type in yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds. Remember, we've done this down here. And then we're going to put in, and you could do an update rate. Again, I'm just going to hard code this to 0.5 f seconds. That's how much is going to be between each update. And then down here, we can then start a coroutine. And this is going to be the same coroutine that we're currently in. So search for player, and that way we're simply going to loop. So what we have yet is that if our target is equal to null, and we are not searching for the player, we're going to start searching for the player and make sure that we store this in a variable. Then it's going to jump down here. It's going to find the results for GameObject with tag player. It's going to store it in a temporary variable. We're going to check if it's found something, and if it hasn't, we're going to wait for half a second, and then we're going to repeat the searching. If it has found something, so else, if it has found something, what we want to do is we want to first off say that we have found what we were looking for, so we don't want to search anymore. So searching for player equals false. We also want to set our target equal to sResult.transform. And we also want to return. And remember, whenever you're inside an enumerator, in order to return, we need to put in some kind of Boolean value. I'm just going to put in false. And then lastly, we want to start updating our path again, because down here, what we do when our target is equal to null is we return. And whenever you return out of an enumerator or any other method that isn't called again, it's going to stop going. So our update path here is simply going to stop updating. So we want it to, we want to tell it that it should start updating again. So we're going to type in start coroutine, update path, remember the parentheses and a semicolon. And this way we loop back into the update path method. Now we can take this checking this if statement block up here, and we can simply copy this, and we can replace this one with that, and we can replace this one with that. Now when we hit save, hopefully we don't get any errors. We do. Let's see here. An object of type convertible to bool is required for the return statement. Have we forgot anything here? So here we are going to return false. Again, this is an enumerator. And down here we are simply going to return. So that should fix it. Indeed it did. Let's try this out. So hit the play button. It's going to look for us and it's going to work just fine. Then when we jump down, it's going to stop doing anything. When we spawn back in, it's going to search for us again. And you see the delay there of half a second is not something that you would ever notice. You might even bump that down to 1 second if you are really optimizing your game. Maybe if you're doing mobile or anything like that. Cool. So that was the first and most important part of this tutorial, so to say. This fixed the most apparent bug. I'm just going to close down this enemy AI here and move it into the scripts folder because it's no longer needed. And now we can continue on to the stuff that I haven't quite planned out, but which should be pretty fun, which is actually writing out an enemy component that is going to be central for any enemy that we have. So let's hit add component, new script, and you can see I've already typed it there, enemy, and it's going to be of type C#. Then we hit create and add, double click it to open it up in Mono Develop here. And what I want to do here is basically copy a lot of the functionality that we have within our player script, because they're going to be fairly similar. So we can simply take all of the stuff inside of the class here, copy it in here. Then we can simply rename player stats to enemy stats. We're still going to have a health. Then we can rename this here also to fit enemy stats here, and it's going to be a new enemy stats there. And then I actually don't want to do player stats. I think stats is quite okay. And then down here, simply do stats, rename that to stats. We can delete the update function and the fall boundary. And down here, if we don't want this method to be called damage player, we want this to be called damage enemy. And then in here, we don't want to kill the player whenever our health goes below 0. We want it to kill an enemy. So we need to go into the game master script and do a kill enemy method. So we're going to do game master.kill enemy, and we're going to give it this, and then we're going to put in a semicolon. Save that. Now we can go back into you can find the game master script, double click that, and you can see here, that we have a bunch of convenience methods, sort of say, that handle all of the respawning of the player and the killing of the player separately from the player itself. And I want to do the same here with the enemy, because it's just better to have this central game master that does all of the respawning and all that, so you don't have to reference yourself and do weird things when you want to do things after the object has been destroyed, such as doing a sound or whatever. So what we want to do in here is, first of all, just kill off the alien spaceship. We simply want to call a destroy method. And we do this by making a new method here. We're going to call it a public static void, and we're going to call it kill enemy. We're going to take in an enemy, which we're going to call enemy. And then inside of the curly brackets here, we're simply going to call a destroy method and give it as the input the enemy.gameObject. This is very simply similar to the kill player method up there. So let's see if this works. We're going to save this out. Our errors disappear. And this looks like it's working, but currently we have no way of damaging our alien spaceship because we actually have a damage enemy method available, but we're not calling it anywhere. So as you can see right now, when we hit play and click there, oops, lots of paths here. It's quite annoying. I know you can disable these, but first off, I just want to see here. We hit alien spaceship and did 10 damage. We call out these debug.log statements, but we are not actually doing any damage. So if we double click that, it'll take us right to the point in our weapon.cs script, which sits on our player, somewhere on our player, on the arm, on the pistol here. You can see the script sits right here. And inside of this, we are not currently doing any damage. We are simply calling a debug.log. So what we want to do in here is maybe we can keep the debug.log for now. It's nice to have, but we can also check if hit dot. Actually, let's do it this way. We're gonna store an enemy component, call this enemy, and we're gonna equal that to hit.getComponent. Oops, hit.gameObjects. For some reason, this is not really doing what I wanted to. Hit.collider.gameObject or getComponent. Yeah, we can do a getComponent directly on that. And we're gonna get the component type of enemy. And we're gonna simply close that off. And then we're gonna check if enemy is not equal to null. So if we have actually hit an enemy, we're gonna damage it. So we're gonna say enemy dot damage enemy, and we're gonna give it the damage amount of damage. So save that, and then in here we can make this debug.log statement exclusive to the enemy. So we're only gonna call that whenever we actually damage something. So now let's close that down, clear out the logs here, and we can see we have some kind of error. I'm gonna bring the console log down here so it's easier to read. It has some invalid arguments. Are we for some reason doing a damage variable of type float here? Yes, indeed we are. So let's make that into an integer. Let's see if that gives us another error. No, that just clears it out. And let's hit play. So now you can see, I'm just going to pause here. So now you can see that, whoops, actually I want to maximize this. So now you can see that when we are hitting our enemy enough times that its health goes down, it will just destroy itself. So that's super cool. Currently we have our alien over here and its stats is set to 100 health. And our pistol is set to do 10 damage. So let's see if that is indeed correct. Currently we are shooting really quickly. I'm just going to set that fire rate back down to 0. So we need to click each time. And I'm going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it goes down. So it's this is a really cool system because we have the stats isolated, we have the weapon isolated, we have the destroying isolated in the Game Master script, and so this is really flexible and allows us to easily add components such as a enemy health bar, which I would very much like to do soon. So that was pretty much all I had to show for this tutorial. I hope that you were able to follow, even though I had not quite planned out everything step by step. but I just thought it was really important to sometimes show you the actual process of figuring these things out. So again, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.